It's the 4th of July. Hello.
Sorry.
No problem. It's the 4th of July, so I know a lot of people are having other programs.
Yeah. Family time.
Family time, night time, fun time.
Fun time, yes.
For us, this is fun. But for many people, they have a different consideration of what's fun. But we're happy we can at least be here. This is nice that anywhere that we can get together and try to raise our consciousness, and it's always a good thing. And our founder said, even if you're in a room by yourself, the four walls will listen. So we're happy to be here today. We'll be having a presentation today by Godruma Prana. He's been a Bhakti Yoga practitioner, multi-instrumental. As you notice, his kirtan is very sweet. He's going to play many different instruments as well. He's a graduate at New Jersey Institute of Technology. He's an avid student of philosophy of yoga. We're all blessed to have him tonight.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for coming. Like Gopal said, this is like 4th of July and you're choosing to spend your time with us. So thank you. So today's topic is, by the way, is this your first time? You've been here before?
No, I've been here a few times before.
Okay, perfect. Okay. So as you guys know, this is our weekly Tuesday night program. We have different speakers doing presentations on different topics. For today, I thought of having some story night, like for us to get together and just hear stories. And I know that for the most part, this art of storytelling, I feel, is pretty much sort of dying in from our modern culture. This culture of coming together and hearing stories. You might see this in bygone times where stories were such a big part of our culture. Like whether a teacher sort of sharing stories with their students, or friends sharing stories with their friends to uplift the other person, or even a parent or grandparents or others sort of sharing stories. So that sort of tradition inspired me to sort of think more into this, to some extent, lost form of storytelling, people coming together. And in every tradition, there used to be some form of like storytelling or like ancient folklore where people come together and hear stories. And these stories often come with a moral message, some kind of an ethical message, not just simply stories for the sake of stories, but these stories used to, at least in bygone times, used to be stories with some moral message. So people come together, hear these stories, and they also hear these messages, really inspiring messages in most cases. So in today's times, like unfortunately, this storytelling is just being relegated to movies where there's a lot of overemphasis and sort of visual and audio stimulation. And a lot of it is dependent on visual stimulation. But in the absence of such stimulation, when you just depend on pure, plain old-fashioned storytelling, there is an important aspect of our imagination. We listen and our imagination at that point takes wings. And it just takes us and transports us to another dimension. And in that dimension, you'll see that often we're confronted with these ethical or moral situations and dilemmas and different messages that we come across. And then when we come back, we don't come back empty-handed, but we come back with those messages. That's the beauty of storytelling. That's why it's so powerful. And the thing is, each one of us has a unique imagination. So sometimes it's nice for us to sort of disconnect from the visual, orally stimulating visual impulses and just let our own imagination take us to where each one of us needs to be individually, where every one of us has a unique imagination. So our imagination takes us to that unique place. So again, going deeper into this theme of storytelling, why are stories, by the way, this is meant to be a discussion-based group, not so much as a monologue. So feel free to jump in with ideas, and of course we'll get into the story part also. So feel free to jump in with any comments or anything you have to add. So why do you feel stories are so enthralling for humans? Why is it such a big part of a human sort of experience? Any thoughts on that? Have you thought of why, or is our stories firstly appealing to you? A? And if they are, why do you think they're so powerful in most cases?
We learn the lessons
Mm.
and what to do, what not to do, and how to we need to be in our lives when the situation that we faced it and that kind are similar, and we can be the lead like as a hero in that.
Mm.
We be the lead
Yeah,
in that story.
excellent, yeah. So not only do we learn like lessons like you said, but we get to also be the central character. And that's how we sort of envision that story unfolding. Any other thoughts of why?
Some storytelling is very mystical, so you're very curious, like because it's mostly I think a path word of mouth, right?
Yeah.
So it's like you're curious about, oh my God, really that was happen or something like that. So it's like you kind of like curious, like that thing happened or like what's that, and then especially like from older generations. You
Yeah.
know? So yeah.
Yeah, like the curiosity factor, right? And then it
Exactly.
makes us curious, and you want to know if it's, especially if it's a mysterious kind of a story.
Yeah. And sometimes it's true, sometimes it's like you wonder, like, wow, is that, like
Yeah.
it could be a mix of, things.
Yeah. So, any other thoughts on why do you feel stories are so engaging?
Historically, like even people who aren't literate have the ability to act stories, so they're powerful in the sense that they span across civilizations as well.
Excellent. Yeah. Even if you don't know how to read, you can hear stories, and that's how stories are sort of transported over generations. Thank you for that thought.
I think it just gives you like a lot of times it gives you a reference point to take motivation from. Like you hear somebody has done something somewhere, and then maybe you are also going through a similar phase or whatever, and you feel like, oh, I've heard somebody doing it, so like I can also do it, or like that. So like I mean, people draw a lot of inspiration and motivation at times from like hearing different stories of success and courage and different things. I mean, that also is one of the aspects.
Nice. It forms like a reference point where we can learn. Yeah.
Sometimes books I've read that I found better than when I saw it than after be on film. And I think when you're imagining it,
Right.
it's 3D, you're like in it, whereas on film it's 2D.
Right. That's the power of stories. We use our own imagination, like we were discussing before. Our imagination sort of develops wings, and it just transports us to a whole another dimension. So, like we were hearing all of these points, stories are so powerful because they help us share information in such a way that forms an emotional connection. Because ultimately we are emotional beings, and that's how we learn through this emotional connection. We can relate and connect to these stories and the message behind it, and also creates a communal atmosphere. And that's one of the purposes of this Hare Krishna movement, is create a community of spiritualists where we come together and uplift us mutually by sort of sharing good messages. That's the train above. You're underneath a subway.
Big worms.
I think our imagination is already developing wings.
I thought like some stories go in my
This
mind.
is part of the setup, today's setup.
Yeah.
Give you some kind of a spooky effect.
3D.
Yeah. So it creates a community experience and also fosters culture. That's how we learn about cultures from the bygone times, when stories are sort of being passed on through generations. And good stories are universal. We learn regardless of where we come from. Good stories inspire us. It strikes a connection with us, and we learn. So like the stories are so powerful, and I figured for tonight we can maybe get into a night of storytelling. So tonight's topic is, as we were discussing, the wisdom tales story, the questions of the Inquisitive ghost. So tonight's story revolves around these 5 kings who are really powerful kings. For some of you who are familiar with the Mahabharata, you know about these 5 kings, 5 brothers, who come from a really sort of noble lineage. They come from really divine source actually. So each one of their parents are some form of like gods. Like even in Greek mythology, you have the god or goddess of love, and the sun god and Zeus and so on. Like that, these 5 kings, who happen to be brothers, their lineage also comes from such divine sources, from these gods. And each one of them has their parent, their father actually is like a really powerful entity in the universe. So needless to say, these 5 kings are not only really powerful, but they also have a lot of virtues. And that's an interesting combination, to see people with power having good virtues, and it really inspires us when we see people like that. Often we don't see people with power having good qualities. So these 5 kings really happen to be really virtuous and powerful. But the thing is, as destiny would have it, they are ousted from their kingdom. They are divested from their kingdom, and they have to leave due to some strange trick of fate. We won't get into the whole story. We don't have that time to get into that story tonight. But due to some trick of fate, these 5 kings who are so powerful, despite their power, they're ousted out of their kingdom. And because of which they have to now go into unknown foreign lands. And maybe... so yeah, I don't know if this is too distracting, but I thought of having some kind of a audio aid. So like I was saying, that due to some trick of fate, they're ousted, and they set off on an expedition to foreign lands. And they're wandering, and of course they're wandering in plain clothes, not as kings or warriors with their sort of wealth and their kingdom and their army behind. So they're wandering around in foreign lands. And as they're wandering from place to place in their journey, they become exhausted at a certain point. So these 5 kings, they decide to take a break in their journey, in their wandering journey. And they sort of rest in a really nice, beautiful place in a forest. And as they're resting, they become really exhausted and thirsty. So the oldest of these 5 kings, these 5 brothers, is Yudhishthir. And Yudhishthir expresses his desires to sort of have some water, and the youngest brother, who's Nakula, he volunteers to go get water. And there seems to be some source of water, like a lake nearby. So Nakula decides to go and fetch water for these 5 brothers as they are sort of resting in this beautiful place. So Nakula goes to get water, and the other 4 brothers are waiting. And as they're waiting, they're just waiting, and he doesn't return. It's been quite a while, and it's maybe like half hour, an hour, and by now they're really getting curious as to what's going on. Did he get distracted by something? Did he forget that we were waiting? Or did he lose his way? Or worse, is he in danger? But the thing is, with these 5 kings, they're really, really powerful. So Yudhishthira is highly skeptical about his life being in danger. Each one of them are so powerful, they can sort of counteract a whole army just by themselves. Just one single-handedly, they can defeat a whole army. So this Nakula has gone, and he's not come back, and this is making the brothers really worry what's going on. So then Yudhishthira tells his other brother, Sahadev, says, why don't you go see what's going on? Maybe he needs help, or is he lost? So then Sahadev also goes in that direction, which is not too far. There's a reservoir of water, like a lake. So Sahadev goes, and they're thinking, okay, hopefully they'll be back. Now Sahadev also hasn't returned. It's again been a while. And now again they're getting really impatient. Okay, 2 of them gone. It's been quite a while, and they haven't returned. What's going on? So then Yudhishthira thinks, okay, it's really strange. Okay, he tells one of his other brothers, okay, Arjuna, why don't you go see what's going on? And Arjuna goes, her brother, And guess what? Same thing. It's been a while. Even Arjuna hasn't come back. Neither have the other two brothers. So now Yudhishthira is getting really, really increasingly worried. And again, to remind you, these brothers, these kings are really, really powerful. And nothing or no one has been able to sort of either defeat them in battle or thwart their sort of efforts in any way. So then he sends Bhima. Bhima, why don't you go? And Bhima is like a He-Man kind of a personality. Like the Hulk mixed with Superman, mixed with all the superheroes mixed into one. That's like Bhima. And he is so strong. He's superhumanly strong. There's stories of how once when he was an infant, his mother was sitting with Bhima on her lap, and she was sitting by the edge of a cliff, sort of nursing infant Bhima. And she hears this roar of lion, and being startled, she just gets up and she sort of drops the baby Bhima, and Bhima is by the edge of a cliff, and the infant sort of goes on rolling. And she's screaming, and this infant is rolling along the hill, and the infant lands on a big piece of rock, and the rock gets smashed into pieces. So now that's how strong this Bhima is. So you can imagine when he grows up how strong he is. It's said that he has like strength of 10,000 elephants. He can uproot trees. So then Bhima goes, and Yudhishthira is thinking, okay, surely they'll be back. And then guess what? Even Bhima doesn't return. It's been a while. So Yudhishthira is like, what's going on? All four of my brothers, they have gone, and none of them have returned. So at this point, Yudhishthira thinks, okay, it's up to me now to find out what's going on. So Yudhishthira, also the oldest of the brothers, he goes in search of these brothers who have gone to get some water, but none of them have returned. So when Yudhishthira goes and he comes across this reservoir of water, and then guess what he sees? He sees all of his brothers, 4 brothers, they're just laying lifeless by the bank of this lake. And he goes immediately, he's in complete disarray, and he just tries to wake them up. He's in anguish, thinking what happened to his brothers? They seem like dead. He's trying to wake them up, and he's completely distraught by that scene. All of his 4 brothers are just lifeless. And again, just to remind you how powerful each one of these brothers are. And it's so strange, like what happened? He's not able to see any signs of sort of anyone who could have harmed, any animals, any scratches, any arrows that could have pierced. What possibly could have happened? You know, maybe is the lake poisoned? What's going on? And as he's thinking, he hears a mystical voice from the sky saying, "This lake, I'm the proprietor of this lake." It's like a ghost who's speaking. I'm the owner and proprietor of this lake. My name is Yaksha. And anyone who wants water from this lake has to first seek my permission before they can drink water from this lake. All 4 of your brothers came. I warned them that if they wish to take water from this lake, they must first answer my questions. That is my condition. I have certain questions. You must satisfactorily answer my questions. And if you don't answer my questions satisfactorily, I'll kill you. And if you do answer satisfactorily, I allow you to live and you can take water from my lake. And all of these brothers, they completely disregarded my instructions or my wishes. And this is their fate. And this shall be your fate also, this ghost is telling Yudhishthira, the oldest. This shall be your fate also, unless you can answer my questions. Now Yudhishthira, the oldest, he's really noble and saintly. So are the other 4 brothers. But Yudhishthira especially he's a king in one sense. He's also, in the Vedic culture, the oldest brother is sort of like a guide for the younger brothers. So the younger brothers really look up in respect to the older brother. So Yudhishthira had that position. He was really respected in one sense as an authority. So he's really wise, gentle, with all good qualities. So immediately Yudhishthira says, "That's absolutely fine, whatever you wish. My only wish is to satisfy and please you." tell me what are your questions? So with this, this is known as Yaksha Prashna. So this whole story is from a book called Mahabharata. So these series of questions that this ghost is asking are known as questions of this ghost, Yaksha. So the first question this ghost, by the way, any questions or any sort of comments so far? Bored? Asleep? Okay, so finally welcome. So the ghost then now starts to ask questions to Yudhishthira. So the first question this ghost is asking Yudhishthira, and all these questions, by the way, are really not just like, how many stars are there in the sky, or things like that. Who's the 21st president of America? These questions have some kind of a philosophical touch to it. So the first question this ghost is asking is, what is said to be mercy? And again, this is meant to be interactive. So I'd like to first ask you guys of what do you think? How would you respond if this ghost had you at a gunpoint? Of course, he didn't have a gun, but if someone has you at a gunpoint and asks you these questions, how would you respond? What is said to be mercy? Any answers? Yes.
To be kind to those who are helpless or less powerful than you.
Excellent, beautiful. In one sense, mercy is like this quality of showing compassion or forgiveness to one who doesn't receive it, or who doesn't deserve it rather. Or if you're in a position to sort of punish someone, you have it in your power, but you still choose to show them mercy or compassion. But how else would you? Yes?
Unconditional love.
Wonderful, excellent. Unconditional love can also be mercy. Any other answers? What is said to be mercy? So let's hear what Yudhishthira had to respond. He said, mercy consists in wishing happiness to all. So the thing is, what this means is, it's easy to wish happiness to someone you love. People, your family, your friends, your best friend, your spouse, parents. But what about wishing happiness to someone you don't like? Or someone who's tried to harm you, or someone who doesn't like you? So when you wish happiness to everybody, that is true mercy. In fact, there's a really nice scripture called Srimad Bhagavatam, where there's a really young saint known as Prahlad. And he quotes this beautiful verse, and he says that may all people be pacified, may all the envious people be pacified, may everybody be happy. Like that nice sort of quote says, Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu, as you might have heard. May all beings be pacified, may everybody be happy. All those who are suffering, may everybody be pacified. So that is the heart of a yogi. They wish happiness to everybody. Why should only my family be happy, or my race, or my country, or humans? Everybody should be happy. So that is the heart of a topmost spiritualist. So that is how Yudhishthira is responding. Mercy consists in wishing happiness to all. So now the ghost is happy. So now the next question of the ghost. What is the most astonishing thing? For those of you who know this answer, this is a really famous question. But what is the most astonishing thing in this world? What is the most wonderful thing you'll see in this whole world? There are many sort of, even in science you might see these wonderful mysteries or something strange thing happening. Most astonishing thing. Like in the deep ocean you'll see this fish which is transparent, or whatever natural phenomenon. What is the most wonderful or astonishing thing you'll see? Like someone with two heads, or I don't know, how would you respond? What is the most wonderful thing in this world? Any answers? I mean, there's not just one right answer, there can be many answers. So
I guess seeing like the opportunity to be a part of this movement in general.
that is that's also a good answer. Like I said, there's many good answers. Any other
Known answer.
Huh?
Already known answer.
You know the answer, so we'll wait for
Yeah.
others and then I'll give you the chance. Any other answers? What is the most astonishing thing you'll see? We should come in the news headlines, breaking news, and you'll be like, oh my god, I just can't believe this. Can you believe what just happened? So what is the most astonishing thing in this world? Going once, twice. Okay.
So people think that they will live even after seeing people die in front of them.
Yeah. So he says, ahani ahani bhutani gachantiha yamalayam sheshastavara ichanti kim ascharya atapara. That every day we see people going to Yamalaya, which is the abode of Yamaraj, which means one leaves this world and goes to the other worlds, the abode of Yama. Every day we see people dying. Our forefathers have passed away, the presidents have come and gone, so many people come and they go. But yet we think that I have a lot of time or I'll never die. So Yudhishthira is saying that is the most astonishing and wonderful thing in this whole world. Nobody thinks that my time is limited. So yeah. So the next question, the ghost is asking, by what means one gets strength? How would you develop strength?
By working out.
Yeah, you can work out, you get strength. Yeah. How else?
Life experience.
Life experiences. Yeah. Prayer. Wonderful. Excellent. Prayer. Any other answers? How do you
You're
get?
undergoing through difficulties.
Excellent. By undergoing difficulties.
Dal.
Was that?
Dal.
Oh, you mean eating? Yeah, it's high protein. Especially when you mix dal and rice. It's said that the nutrition is increased by 20%. So Yudhishthira answers, like, how can one get strength? He says one gets strength, one earns strength by patience. So like Gopal Prabhu was saying, like, you can work out, right? You get a lot of strength. But what about inner strength? Is there any gym that you can go to develop this inner strength? How can you fortify or like strengthen yourself? So when we practice patience, of course life throws a lot of challenges and tribulations on our way. So when we practice patience, we really become strong by that. We learn how to endure, we learn how to be tolerant. So that's how we increase our strength, we become stronger. So the next question this ghost is asking, what is the best of all happiness? Now there can be different kinds of happiness. You can get happiness by having the best pizza in the world, or maybe whatever happiness that comes from wealth, beauty, possessions. So there can be different kinds of happiness, right? So the ghost is asking, what is the best of the different kinds of happiness? How would you guys respond? Yeah.
Serving Krishna. I just want to piggyback to the last one.
Yeah.
There was a book about, I don't know, less than 20 years ago, something. The author's last name is Campbell, and he claimed that if the leaders around World War I had listened to each other more and had more patience with each other and whatever they were collaborating, discussing, clashing about, that they would have not been in World War II, which was actually a continuation of World War I, the next generation.
Right.
So patience, yeah. So
Interesting. Thank you for that. Yeah.
Okay.
And did you have any thoughts on this one? Like what is
Serving Krishna.
serving? Oh yeah, that's right. You said serving Krishna. Yes, excellent. Any other thoughts of what is the best of all happiness?
Butter pecan ice cream.
Oh, I wish you hadn't said that. Now I can't. I'm not gonna be able to stop
Maybe
thinking.
charity.
Huh?
Charity.
Charity. Excellent. That's also a nice kind of happiness. In charity.
Self-discovery.
Self-discovery. Excellent. Why? That's such a beautiful answer. Would you like to elaborate on that?
For me, I think that is like I think that's our journey, into the universe. Like when we start to be able to connect to ourselves, to be able to see what it is, then we be able to be more conscious of what's happening around us.
Excellent. I love your answer because, see, we look for happiness outside and all the things in the world. We think that this thing is gonna make me happy, that person is gonna make me happy. So you said self-discovery. So the Bhakti text, they say that the spirit soul, all of us are spirit souls. The three qualities of the spirit soul are Sat, Chit, and Ananda. Ananda is like bliss. We're naturally happy beings. So I liked your answer of like self-discovery. So that's how we find happiness. Any other answers of what is the best of all types of happiness? So, huh?
Spiritual happiness.
Spiritual happiness. Yeah.
Atma
Atma Gyan, right?
Atma knowledge.
Nice, nice. So Yudhishthir says, contentment is the best of all happiness. So contentment brings this deep sense of happiness which is not conditional or dependent on external situation. You can choose to be content, so you can choose to be happy. Happiness is a choice. Or as I like to say, happiness is an inside job. Wink, wink, if any of you are sort of politically inclined. I don't know if that rings any bell, but anyway. So yeah, by being content, you can choose to be happy, and contentment brings peace. And this way, in Bhagavad Gita, in 2nd chapter, Krishna describes how by one cannot be happy without having a peace of mind, and one cannot be peaceful without steady intelligence and a calm, purified mind. So this way we learn to become happy. And then the ghost continues asking questions. The next question the ghost is asking is, what if abandon makes a man popular? And this is interesting because usually when we get things, we become popular, right? Isn't that how it works? Like to become popular, you have to get more money, you have to have more friends, more property, whatever, like more XYZ dash dash dash, whatever that is. But here he's asking, what if abandon makes you more popular? How would you respond if you were Yudhishthira? Maybe some of your CD collection. Do people even have CDs these days? But anyway. What abandon makes you popular?
I think maybe when you abandon, you become stronger.
Abandon
And-
what?
Like when you become abandoned, it makes you become stronger because you don't depend on anyone, right? You need to use your survival skill, and also when you abandon, maybe I guess you just kind of release everything you don't really you just I don't know, it's just probably you need to be with yourself, to be by yourself, you have to become strong.
Okay, so you're saying that when someone is sort of left on their own, they're sort of forced to depend on themselves and they become stronger.
Could be, yeah. Or
Or another way to look at this question is, what when given up makes you popular?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
What when given up? Let's say you give up something.
Oh, okay.
And what is that thing, if you give that up,
Oh, I got
makes you popular?
Yeah. Okay.
So let's say, for example, like I was saying, usually when we acquire things, we think we become popular. If I acquire money, property, I become popular. But if I give things up, what is that particular thing which given up makes a man or a woman popular?
Material
happiness.
Material happiness. Wonderful answer. Would you like to elaborate on that?
Nothing to say. I grew up in a household where my parents are initiated, but I like to get a lot of things and buy things. But my parents are always very conservative, like save things. You don't really need this happiness. Krishna is the ultimate thing. So I guess in my way and how I live, I think material happiness.
Excellent. So usually we think material things bring us happiness, so that happiness which comes from material things, it's rare to find people who sort of are detached from that and then give that up. So you're saying if you become that person who's completely oblivious to material happiness, that makes you popular. Wonderful, beautiful answer. Excellent. Any other thoughts of what else, when given up, makes you popular?
Negativity.
Ah, negativity. That's excellent. There are so many figures, personalities in this world who, just because of their positivity, they became so popular. Like Nelson Mandela, and there's so many such people who chose to not spread negativity. They were confronted with different situations, but they chose to be positive. Excellent. Any other answers before we see how Arjuna responds? Huh? It's okay. Like, there's no wrong answer.
Like power?
Power. Yeah, you know, just hunger for power, we think that only makes us more popular. Yeah.
Fear.
Fear. Interesting. So, yeah, that's, you know, this founder of this movement, Srila Prabhupada, once he was asked, how do you feel when you chant? And Prabhupada said, I feel fearless. You know, and you can see how popular he was, because he was fearless. So that's a great answer, to give up fear. But the right way to give up fear is by depending on Krishna. One becomes like a baby is when they're sheltered under their parents' care, they're like carefree and fearless. But as soon as they're lost, then all of a sudden they become fearful. So kids often don't have anxieties of how am I gonna pay my bills, how am I gonna do this. They're sheltered, fearless. So if you're dependent on Krishna, we also become fearless. So let's see how Yudhishthira responds of what's the secret to being popular. So he says, pride, if abandoned, makes a man popular. If you give up pride, such a person is really famous. And what that means is, some of you might be confused because pride can have a positive and a negative connotation in our material, sort of secular realm. Pride can be seen as a good thing, especially in a workplace. You know, I'm proud to work in this company, pride, or sometimes there's pride parades and things like that. But we don't mean pride from that perspective. Pride for the negative aspect of pride, which is like this ego and arrogance when someone has this. I did this talk at another venue and someone was asking like, wait, I'm a little confused. I thought pride was good. So that's why I thought I'll clarify that we're talking about the negative side of pride. So it's interesting how to become popular, we become sort of really arrogant. But if you see, those who are really truly humble, despite even if they're not trying, such people really become famous. Humility is such a thing that really touches us. And no matter how loud we scream and to get attention, but a humble person, just by their silence, they can be louder than the most loudest person. You follow? You can scream at the top of your lungs for some attention and fame and power. But in humility, just by their silence, they can be the loudest person in a room just by the humility they exude. So here Yudhishthira is saying that pride when given up makes a person really popular. But then you might think, okay, how do you define pride? What do you mean by pride? How would you define pride? So then the ghost is asking, okay, what is pride? Arjuna is saying pride, when you give up pride, that makes a person popular. Now the ghost is responding saying, okay, what is pride? So how would you respond?
I think pride in the sense that you're only believing in yourself.
Beautiful.
Like you have no humility. The negativity comes when you're only proud of yourself.
That's a beautiful answer. You're would you like to repeat that again? Can you repeat that? That's a really beautiful answer.
Yeah, the negative side of pride is when you're only proud of yourself.
Excellent. Any other answers of how do you define pride?
Maybe when you take things personally.
You take things personally? Okay, that's a really nice way to look at pride. Something similar to how you were saying, just sort of depending on yourself. So, Yudhishthira responds, he gives his definition of pride is to consider the only doer of one's actions, similar to what you're saying. So in Sanskrit, the word is ahamkar. Ahamkar literally means ahamkar, means I am the doer. So one way to define pride is to think, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains that there are many factors that contribute to our success. There are many factors that accomplish action in chapter 18. And he says one who doesn't understand these different factors is not in complete knowledge. And then Krishna, you guys all know about Bhagavad Gita. So Bhagavad Gita is this book which is spoken by Krishna, the Supreme, the Divine Supreme Lord, and his associate who is Arjuna. So it's a dialogue between God and his favorite associate. This whole book is a dialogue between the two, where Arjuna is having this sort of, we hear this post-traumatic stress disorder, but he's having a pre-traumatic stress disorder because he's in the brink of a really tough law enforcement battle. He's like a law enforcement officer. He's having this breakdown and he's asking these questions to Krishna, all about how to act, how to go about one's duty, and so on. And Krishna is responding. And one of the things Krishna says is Prakriti kriyamanani gune karmani sarvasha ahankara vimurdatma kartahamiti manyate. That the bewildered soul, under the influence of pride or arrogance, thinks that they are the only doer of actions, which is actually carried out by the gunas and prakriti, material nature. So the material nature also is sort of contributing to that, and one doesn't acknowledge all those different factors that have contributed to our success. That is ahankar, or literally meaning ahamkar, I am the only doer. So that is pride, when you fail to acknowledge or show gratitude to all those different forces that brought you to this position. So that is how Yudhishthira responds by what is pride. And then the ghost then asks that what is faster than air? I think you know the answer. Don't say it if you know. You know the answer? So I'll give you the last answer. So for those of you who don't know, what is faster than air? You might say like, duh, light. That's one of the answers. But I'd like to hear other answers. What is faster than air?
Maybe your thought.
That's an interesting answer. And why do you say that?
Because it just come up like that, so I was just thinking like maybe, because we think so much and then it's like instantly. People we think instantly all the time, so I was just thinking maybe.
Excellent. Any other thoughts of what is faster than air?
Sound?
Sound, yeah, sound travels pretty fast. Yeah, it's one of the answers. So the prize for this one goes to you. So Yudhishthira says the mind or the thoughts, that's faster than air. So I'm sorry, I forgot to give you the chance. That was your answer also. So you might think so many other things, but mind, of course, the mind in this context, usually when we say mind, we think the mind meaning the brain. But in the Bhakti text, it's described the mind is actually the heart space, manasa. So the heart is the seat of emotions, thoughts. So the mind is constantly churning thoughts. And the scientists say that it churns as many as 80,000 thoughts a second. 80,000 thoughts a day, which is like a thought a second or more than that. So like this, every second our mind is constantly, our thoughts are so constantly going on and on. In fact, there's a really beautiful text, ancient text of Bhakti. There's a verse which describes that Pantastu koti vata shata vatsara sampragamyo vayoratapi manaso muni pungavanam sopyasta yat prapada simnya vichinta tatve govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. Which means that the Muni Pungavas, or Muni, the foremost of all the sages, they can be on a path to search the divine at the speed of the mind. Vayavrataphi manaso, manasa is the mind. They can be on that path at the speed of the mind, but still they cannot search out the absolute truth, even if they go at that speed. So the mind is so fast, the thoughts are so, even if you travel at that speed, you still cannot, just by your own mental efforts. So only by developing love or bhakti can one attain Krishna. So anyway, here Yudhishthira is saying that the mind is faster than air. And then the next question the ghost is asking, Yaksha is asking Yudhishthira, is how does one attain greatness? So you might think, okay, this is easy. Well, how would you answer? How would you attain greatness?
Make lots of money.
Ah, yes, that's a sure shot way. More money means you're greater. What how else can you be great?
Knowledge.
Knowledge, yeah. You can also be great by having a lot of knowledge.
Or strength.
Strength, yes. You have the most strongest man or woman in the world, and you become like great.
Presently it is only money.
Money.
Presently.
Right. By money, everything else comes, right? That's the.
Presently that is the only
Yeah.
thing. In those days maybe it is different.
So, any other ways of becoming great? So Yudhishthira says, one achieves greatness by practice of austerities. Now, you might think, what does it mean? What is austerity? Because it's such a strange word in our modern sort of society. Austerity? What does that mean? So austerity, in one sense, you can define as like a really severe, rigid, strict practice with extreme self-discipline, with minimal self-indulgence. You do any such practice, it's really strict and severe. So that is austerity. So now Yudhishthira says by austerity, such a practice which is strict and severe, which is like avoiding any self-indulgence, one makes one great. How is that? So by these austerities, see all these comforts that we have, these bodily comforts, they're aimed at the body and the mind to give pleasure to our body and mind. So by doing austerity, one rises above the bodily platform, the body and the mind, the urges of the body, mind. Like the first verse of Ishopanishad, Vacho Vegam Manasa Krodha Vegam. When one learns to control the urges of the mind, the tongue, the body, and so on, one truly becomes great. So Yudhishthira says when we practice austerity, one rises above the demands of the body and the mind. And then one, through this austerity, one can achieve greatness.
Like Ekadash.
Huh?
Like Ekadash following Ekadash.
Yes. So, would you like to explain for some?
Yeah, that's by controlling the senses, following the Ekadash.
Yeah. So in the lunar calendar, we have these 2 days in the month in the lunar calendar, which are known as Ekadashi days, where we fast according to the lunar calendar. It has a lot of bodily, also spiritual benefits. So it's not easy to do fasting. Nowadays, fasting is a big in thing. Intermittent fasting. Everybody's doing intermittent fasting. It's supposed to be some cool thing. But austerity by fasting. And then the next question the ghost is asking, what is the best of all wealth? By this, what that means is, what is implied is there's different kinds of wealth. So what is the best of all wealth? Wealth can come in many sources, many forms, right? Wealth can be in cryptos, or wealth can be in hard gold bricks, or whatever, diamonds. And What is the best of all wealth?
Spiritual wealth.
Who's, huh?
Spiritual wealth.
Spiritual wealth. And what is the spiritual wealth?
Because it doesn't go down, it is always accumulating.
Ah,
It doesn't-
excellent. Like, I think you're into like the financial markets, right? There are some financial products which increase and then they crash. And then,
Every company has to crash at one point.
yeah, but then you're saying spiritual wealth doesn't crash. If you want to invest in that, by all means go invest. Your money will never crash. So Yudhishthira responds by saying spiritual knowledge is the best of all wealth. Because other things can be taken away from you. But spiritual knowledge, there is a really nice book called as Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, where it's the nectar devotion, right? The cycle where Rupa Goswami says, he draws a cycle of suffering, and he says the cycle starts with ignorance or lack of knowledge. All of our suffering, our sojourn in this material world, it starts because of lack of spiritual knowledge. That is what sets the ball rolling. So spiritual wealth is the best of all wealth. And then maybe we can take one last question. Is that okay? There's many more questions, but I don't think we have time for all of those questions. Yes.
I have a question. So what's the difference between like spiritual knowledge versus like just, regular knowledge? Like you said, like, the best one.
Excellent. So in addition to the questions of the ghost, we also have questions. Remind me your name?
Oing.
Owen.
Yes.
So we have questions of Owen also. Beautiful question. What is the difference between material knowledge and spiritual knowledge? Material knowledge is aimed at matter, and spiritual knowledge is aimed at spirit. So everything we do is aimed at the body, comforts of the body, the education in schools and colleges. They're all aimed at manipulating matter. Either matter meaning like constructing high rises, which is made of matter. Everything around us is like matter. So all of the knowledge we have in universities is aimed at how we can best manipulate matter to our advantage, or how to bring comfort to the body. But the spiritual knowledge, it says, like just like he was explaining, the spiritual knowledge aims at the wealth which never crashes. So spiritual knowledge is aimed at spirit, or how to attain that spiritual platform, spiritual happiness, in such a way that it doesn't diminish. So that is spiritual knowledge. So actually we should stop, because I also want to give some thoughts for any. There's more questions, but maybe you can. I want to conclude this story, by the way. So I'll take, if you can give me a minute to conclude the story. So then the ghost goes on asking a lot of questions, and Yudhishthira satisfactorily answers all of those questions. And then now the ghost says, okay, there's one final thing though. He says, I give you one, you can revive one of your, I'm really pleased at your answers. I give you this benediction. You can bring one of your brothers back to life. So he says, the choice is yours. Whichever brother you can bring back to life. So now of these brothers, two of them are his step-brothers, and the other two are his real brothers. So then he says Nakula, which is one of his step-brother. So then the ghost is like, okay, why did you choose that? He's the youngest of the brother. You could have chosen Bhima, who's like the He-Man. He's like really strong, or Arjuna. So he asks, why did you choose that? So Yudhishthira says that he's my step-brother. My mother, at least she'll have one son alive, which is me. And at least my stepmother, she'll be happy that one of her sons is also alive. So then the ghost is so pleased by this answer. He's so noble, he's so thoughtful. He's not thinking I should bring one of my brothers back and these are stepbrothers. So the ghost is really, really pleased by this. And at this point the ghost then says that I'm so happy by all of your knowledge, the qualities you've exhibited. This was just a test. All of this was just a test. And he reveals his true form. And the ghost says that actually, I am your father, which is Dharmaraj. Remember at the start of the story, we said that these 5 kings had their parentage, they come from noble gods. Each one of their father is like a noble god, just like in Greek mythology of this goddess of love and Zeus and so on. So each one of their father is a god. So his father is Dharmaraj, which is the god of religion and virtue. So he says, I'm actually a father. This was just a test to see how prepared you are to run your kingdom. So with that, he revived all of those brothers and they all came back. And as all stories end, they lived happily ever after. So with this, maybe you can just take a minute to just conclude if you have any reflections. We started off this night by talking about the power of stories, how stories help us create an emotional connection. These stories also have a moral and spiritual message. And this is how through stories, culture is transported and we learn a lot of values and lessons. So any reflections before we move on to the next part of our evening program? Yes.
Should listen more stories.
We should listen to more stories. You should please keep coming back. You have exalted wonderful saintly people like Tulsi, Gopal, and all of you, Aditya. And so please keep coming every Tuesday and hear more stories, like you said. Yes.
A few things. One, Tulsi is an excellent storyteller.
Yeah.
So I like the music, by the way, that you have in the background. I remember years, double-digit years, doing parent-teacher conference. I always used to actually have that too. I think it's nice. But back to the pride thing. In Christianity, it's one of the 7 deadly sins, and it's not one of the 9 fruits of the spirit. It's like very pride. And then with Kali Yuga time, all this pride. There's pride music channels, pride, whatever. But it's, just focusing on yourself.
Yeah, and so much so that pride is now actually seen as a positive thing. Like in workplace, pride is a good thing to cultivate. So it's that's why in when I did this talk somewhere in another venue, someone said, actually I'm confused, I thought pride was a good thing.
Right.
So now we live in a society where pride is considered a good thing.
Yeah, a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Upside down.
Yeah. Any other realizations that you had? Anything you want to add? Okay, so with this, maybe we can move on to our next part of the program, which will do kirtan.
We will make again kirtan. You can choose if you want sleeping kirtan, dancing kirtan, or crashing kirtan. You have a choice. Maybe we can vote, huh? This is how they do nowadays. Who is for sleeping kirtan?
I don't want sleeping kirtan.
No sleeping.
Okay, so who is for dancing kirtan?
Yes.
Who is for anything and everything?
Me.
Okay, so we'll start slowly and then we will make it.
Okay.
But at least we can get up, huh?
Yes.
It's okay?
Yes.
So let's take whatever